SACT, DSACT, General Bulov, colleagues, friends, can I start with a challenge? You no doubt reflect, like me, when you come to a conference like this and you talk to colleagues from other nations, that we discover, unsurprisingly, that we're all wrestling with exactly the same challenges, just in different perspectives in different nations. Modernizing our armed forces for the contemporary operating environment, understanding how we achieve manpower sustainability against internal demographics, how we embrace new technology whilst remaining true to our ethical and moral values, and of course many more. What if we shared what we're doing? And for example, if we just shared between us 3 to 4 experiments every year of the many that your nations will be doing, we would have 100, 120 experiments available to alliance members every year. Even more if we add partners to this. Hold that thought. ACT sees itself at the heart of that effort, harvesting good ideas for the alliance, but also facilitating the sharing of good ideas from which we gain. We are most definitely better at 29. Of course, that's why we're here in COTC, unsurprisingly, sharing perspectives, returning to our nations, I hope, with lots of new ideas, and with ACT enabled to help the alliance as an entity move ahead. General Leonardo has provided you with a perspective from the Supreme Commander. I just want to dig down one layer further as we embark on COTC and explain what the Alliance's Warfare Development Command is seeking to achieve on behalf of your nations. Part of this is simply as an opportunity for us to make sure that you understand what ACT is doing on behalf of your nations. But what I really hope is that I fill your notebooks with thoughts of areas that you are going to go back to your nations and explore whether you are connected through ACT and with nations in order to ensure that you get the best practice and get a step into areas that you may not have already considered. We've recently produced a booklet to describe what's on the screen that you've just seen in the film. I'll just adapt it a little bit in my script, but please take that away and digest it. So over a year into my position and that of General Leonardo, it's become clear that we're quite good at describing ourselves as the Capability Requirements Authority for the Alliance, one of the lead players in the NATO defense planning process, strategic foresight analysis, and innovation. However, I think for those of you who do this daily, and on the front row, that is you will recognize that it is more difficult to get connection with warfare development. What is it, and can it be given the right profile in order to support your national endeavors and on our behalf the Alliance? I mean, it's not surprising. It's tactical business, connectivity, progressing of capability roadmaps, program management, developing concepts for discrete warfare subjects, managing capability programs. But nevertheless, the sum of this multifaceted endeavor is the guarantee, as much as we can have one, of the credibility of the Alliance. Foundational stuff without which the Alliance's future cannot be assured. Let me just unpack that a little bit further. Next slide, please. Oh, in fact, that slide is fine. As the video suggested, the Y adaptation in red is something that is obvious and vital. I don't need to unpack that for you. We cannot, of course, predict the future. We wouldn't dream of suggesting we can, but we must not, to paraphrase the historian Michael Howard, be so far off the mark that it becomes impossible to adjust once the character of our conflict is revealed. So if you take the red as something we'll wrestle with, to the right in green is the end state of warfare development, the outcomes on behalf of the Alliance. That is what we are seeking with your nations to deliver. Let me just pause on those. I think it's important that we get this. The first one is about coherent development of the military instrument, seeking to maximize the capability generated whilst minimizing the cost to member nations. It's planning and programs delivering coherent military instrument so we can fight together. The second point is about an alliance with an edge over its adversaries. This requires us to adapt the way we fight, what we fight with, the domains in which we operate, and in headline terms, this is about transferring ideas into capability or innovation. The third is about ensuring we have an alliance that's greater than the sum of all its parts, that's able to operate together. We quite rightly focus on the NATO Readiness Initiative, the reinforcement concept, new operational headquarters. All your nations are extremely focused on that. But SACEUR can actually collect all the forces he can, but if they don't have the command and control, the logistics, the right situational awareness, they're not able to fight together. And warfare development delivers that enablement. And then finally, warfare development allows the alliance to fight together instinctively at the scale demanded. Interoperability, crucial. You heard the SecGen talking about it, and SACT, and it's clearly the key theme for our conference. And you will recognize that without those four things, you don't have a credible military instrument. In ACT, of course, we do this on an alliance perspective. We're not seeking to involve ourselves in nations' choices of platforms and systems, but rather ensure that when all the nations' capabilities come together, we can fight on arrival together. The two blue boxes in the middle describe what the Warfare Development Command is, the Warfare Development Command engine room. It's the what on the right and the how on the left. The what, I won't run through that. You can read those, instinctively understand it. But I will focus on the how, because that allows us to place this conference and our syndicates within the context of an overall warfare development effort. Let me just flick to another different presentation on those actions on the how. So next slide, please. Every nation has a version of the warfare development effort to match your structures, whether you've written it down or simply it exists. The mix of processes and capabilities all add up to that intellectual effort that our militaries are the most capable they can be today, and importantly, tomorrow. On the right, just so we've touched it, is a very simple but really important additional element, which is the partnership between the two strategic commands. This is important for our advice to NATO headquarters in order that we ensure that we give the rich perspective necessary from operations, warfighting and warfare development. But also it is very clear that the warfare development machine must seek to solve the operational challenges faced today and tomorrow by SACEUR. If we're not connecting this effort in partnership with the front line, then we're missing the point. And it's great to see members from many of the areas of ACO here. We're keen to understand your problems so we can help solve them. So just to the left and the warfare development wheel, as I refer to it, let me just pause on each of those boxes just very briefly. So we scan, investigate and inform. The headlines here are the strategic foresight analysis and the framework for future alliance operations and the related regional studies that you may wish to explore with our SMEs during the conference. But also our BISC efforts to inform NATO headquarters, so expertise in China, in the implications of the cancellation or the failure of the INF Treaty, space and cyber, all of those relatively recent hot topics we're providing advice on. And it's here, of course, that the leadership of the work to explore the alliance response to resilience and hybrid warfare also sits. And that is where the Syndicate 3 discussions will feed to ensure that we can provide the necessary advice to NATO headquarters on that really testing issue and our interrelationship with the civilian sector. So we innovate and challenge. That's a mix of open innovation, you heard General Anata talking about that, but also the application of emerging and disruptive technology to capability. It's also delivery of concepts and experimentation, back to my point about sharing. And of course, this is where Syndicate 1 on innovation and new technology sits, of course. We connect. If you reflect what the potential is of sharing, we have access to the biggest defense network in the world. 29 nations, 41 partners, all with industry, academia, military and civilian, NATO agencies, all able to contribute to the benefit of the warfare military instrument of the alliance. I mean, that is extraordinary. If we were able to harness that in its entity, we can always do better. So conferences like this are critical in order to bring minds together and ensure we remain connected across our various waters. We offer tools that enable you to share, and some use them, many don't. But the tools are available, back to my sharing challenge. And we connect innovators, as the General mentioned, through our Innovation Hub. And this conference is at the heart of that link with Chiefs of Transformation, C-Cells, Young Disruptors, COE Directors, all exchanging and harvesting ideas. We deliver capability. Of course, the focus for us is on the delivery of common funded capability, those capabilities that nations have determined we should buy on an alliance basis, logistics, medical, but especially C2 in all domains. The connective tissue that makes us interoperable and able to fight together. And as I'll come back to very shortly, also leading on the capability requirements for the alliance. That's a role that we play. We drive standards. Everything we do is aimed at interoperability. The cog that you see on the screen is trying to reflect that every element of that box is simply aimed at improving interoperability. But there is an interoperability standard, the Federated Mission Network, that we own and try and implement across the nations, and you will be involved in the spiral development of that in order that we're really able to measure interoperability rather than just talk about it. We are responsible for standards in training and also the technical framework. So through CMRE and now a maritime autonomy technical framework in order that your maritime vehicles can operate together at war. All of that, of course, is formalized through STANAGs and the standardization organization. So that's why I say we drive standards rather than set them, but that's the role of the Warfare Development Command. So we also educate. And this is in global programming. Can we have the Warfare Development word is there? I thought we'd lost it. Oh, I apologize. We educate. Global programming is we educate 11,000 men and women from your nations every year to ensure they get the alliance capability. And a human capital program, the strategic effort to try and set the alliance on a route to adapt our human element in order that we have the right men and women, the right structures, the right skills for the future that we see. Syndicate 4, of course, will be exploring this particular area and helping us, I hope, to get that right. And we're also seeking to embrace new technology to make ourselves more efficient in the delivery of that training. We plan. So NATO defence planning process, I hope most of you are aware of that. If not, please investigate it. But the NATO warfighting capstone concept, I'll say no more. That's been well flagged. But also strategies and policies, and for example, the cyber plan for the alliance and how we will take that forward over the next 5 years. And then finally, we support operations, solving problems of the front line, through the warfare development machine that I've just described. For example, a deterrence tool, the readiness reporting tool for the NATO Readiness Initiative, a tanker planning tool to assist AirCom, We provide the pre-deployment trainings for the missions, NATO missions in Iraq and Afghanistan, and of course through the Joint Warfare Centre and the Joint Force Training Centre in Stavanger and Bydgoszcz respectively, we deliver the exercises that SACEUR demands of the alliance. Of course, what we do then is to make our organisation so complicated that you have no idea of where to go to find your points of contact. So in that basis, I've got four slides just to finish with before you can come back and we can have a discussion, in order that you can find the appropriate person, exchange cards with them, and I hope then build a relationship that enables us to connect more readily with your nations on whatever subjects you think would be appropriate. So next slide, please. Oh, not that one. This should be General Sharpie, I hope. No mugshot. You're going to have to stand, Tom. Then actually, there was a mugshot on there initially. So Lieutenant General Tom Sharpie, United States Air Force, C5 pilot, rugby player, wrestler, and in ACT responsible for capability development and for as SACT's innovation representative. That's to deliver innovation, best practice, an application of innovation to frontline problems, the vision for C2 logistics and medical enabling capability, the lead for interoperability, and for driving capability management change in the alliance to ensure that we deliver those effectively, and also to link the alliance with industry. That's Tom Sharpie. See him afterwards. So next slide, please. All the mugshots have gone. John. Oh, there we are. Oh, I hadn't spotted that. Okay, right, I apologise. John Tamman, US Navy, a nuclear submariner of considerable renown, long-distance runner and junk food connoisseur, and in ACT responsible for strategic foresight, most recently regional studies on Russia, the Arctic and North Africa, defence planning, NATO warfighting capstone concept, and partnership and concept development. And he runs most of our key events, including this conference. You'll see a lot of him over the next 48 hours. And then next slide, please. Vice Admiral Alfonso Fernandez de Cordoba, Spanish Navy, not only has the most impressive name of all the DCOSs, pretty obviously, but is a hiker and a loyal supporter of the best football club in the world. He doesn't actually specify which is the best football club in the world. That's a classic alliance approach, isn't it? So it doesn't offend anyone. But Alfonso is a supporter of that. But in ACT, he's responsible for experimentation, doctrine, human capital, the application and modelling and simulation to warfare capability, education and training, lessons learned, and a link with the Centres of Excellence, those 25 organisations of subject matter experts. They're most of the directors are in the room with us, that are available to provide you with SME advice and, of course, the Alliance. And then finally, last slide, please. And this is Major General Sefik Atak, Turkish Army, keeping the land element alive in the face of all those naval and Air Force officers. Is a keen runner and also a traveller, although he's probably the least travelled DCOS because he's responsible for running the organisation internally, notwithstanding his love of it, but is responsible for that internal management. And you may wish to talk to him about NATO command structure adaptation in order that you understand where your national people are, that you're able to link with those. And a really, I think, exciting recent initiative, which is we've applied artificial intelligence to internal document management, reading, tagging, and distributing automatically the 200 to 300 documents that we get into ACT every day. Something I think, once we've proved it works, that we will try and apply across the alliance. I think that is a game changer internally. Please make your mark with those four, and please connect, as I've said. So just finally, and then the last slide, in ACT you have a natural warfare development partner for your endeavours. It's a shared problem set. We link to the biggest defence network in the world. And we do that on an alliance that operates at a scale that no nation operates at, core level maneuver, multiple task group operations, delivering influence operations against an adversary at scale. That is rich perspective that we need to understand in order that we can do that when we come together as an alliance to fight. And we're doing this, of course, with and for your nations. And therefore, I'll just finish with a pretty obvious point. Let's share. We are most definitely better at 29. Thank you very much indeed.